Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to continue with my experience of living on the Pluto Line. This will be part 2 and also I'm going to mention some stuff that's happening astrologically for me. I would like to do that for you as well, but as I don't have your chart details, feel free to contact me if you would like me to have a look at your chart and do a reading for you, or if you would like some advice in regards of your chart. And yeah, the other thing that I would like to mention is once again, I would like to talk about this new channel that I came across, Stars and Destruct, because it's been a huge resource of inspiration for me in past few days. So that's pretty much what this video is going to be about. Mostly it's going to be what living on the Pluto line is like, so the continuation of that. Okay, so as of Thursday, Friday, my chart has been set on fire pretty much, especially as Moon has been transiting through the sign of Taurus since Friday. And I am very sensitive to Moon anyway, because I have my Moon in Cancer. But Moon transiting through Taurus made a conjunction with my Sun, with my North Node. Today is making conjunction with my Mars, and also later on, once it moves into Gemini, it will make conjunction with my Chiron in Gemini. And at the same time as all this has been happening in past 3 days, I had a Venus return on Friday, and this Venus also sextiled my Chiron, so again activation to Chiron, and she will also conjunct my Mercury. There's just so much stuff going on in my chart personally, because majority of my planets are in a fixed signs, and so that's obviously getting activated by the momentum in Aquarius and Taurus and Scorpio with the South Node, and obviously with the Sun currently transiting through the sign of Pisces, that is also touching my IC and my MC being in Gemini and in my midheaven. So like I said, pretty much everything is happening, and and that's why also I feel called to talk about this, because there is a lot of Mercury activation as well, and as my Chiron is in Gemini, there is obviously a wound in regards of this. So that's why I thought I'll just share what's going on for me. As I said, I don't obviously want to just talk about myself, but as I don't have access to other people's chart for the videos, I'm going to use practical application when it comes to my chart and my life. So yeah, so in past 3 days, I definitely have been feeling this, a lot of emotions, a lot of emotional release, and a lot of old insecurities coming to the surface. Obviously, there's been also activation to my Jupiter with Mercury conjuncting my Jupiter recently, and this Mercury, as it's going to conjunct the sign of Saturn just before Saturn actually moves into Pisces next week. The week after. We're still in February at the moment. It will actually make a square to my natal Mars. So, like I said, there is a lot happening, and I do feel personally a lot of pressure. As we are in a sign of Pisces, as I mentioned in my previous videos, there will be a lot of intensity and pressure in regards to what we still need to release, as there also been this transit of Mercury through the sign of Aquarius. We getting more and more information, more and more. Our thinking process is probably more focused on what is still keeping us from being sovereign, from being individuated, where we are not able to show up authentically in our life or do what we really want. And once Mercury will actually make conjunction to Saturn, this will become even more intensified, because then, like I said, Saturn not long afterwards will move into the sign of Pisces, where all these restrictions will want to be resolved. They will want to be transmuted and transcended. And I'm sure that everyone is feeling this in one way or another to a certain extent, because everyone I'm coming across is going through some kind of changes in their life, or people are thinking about what changes they could implement in their lives, because it's just not sustainable anymore to keep with the same way of life that we have had. And especially these past 3 years, for many people, it's represented a wake-up call, and many people do want to make changes and start living life in a way that is more in accordance with their values. And this is actually what's happening for me right now, because I just had Venus return on Friday. Venus is all about our values, about our essential needs, about sense of sustainability, survival on the primal level, also our self-reliance, how we can depend on ourselves and create everything that we need in order to support ourselves. And it's also our relationships. Obviously, Venus in transiting through the sign of Aries is currently, it's all about yourself rather than the other, because Aries is very self-oriented. So more and more people obviously are becoming aware of what is important to them outside of relationship, not just as a part of relationship. And like I keep saying, once the nodes, lunar nodes, move into the sign of Aries and Libra, whereas the North Node will be in the sign of Aries, this will be even more felt, more prominent for the next 2 years. As I said, shared a video from Teal Swan yesterday where she explains what is actually the main reason for why relationships don't work out. She obviously talks mostly about the romantic relationships, but this is also applicable to any kind of relationships that we have. And majority of that comes from not feeling safe. So that's Taurus and Cancer, because obviously Taurus is the material safety, like where can we provide for ourselves, can we survive, and then Cancer is all about emotional safety and security, positioned with Saturn. So we want to feel like there is certain structure in our life, something that we can hold on to, something that makes us feel safe. So this is all being highlighted at the moment, and for me personally, because on the top of just Venus transiting Aries, which is actually my third house, so again it's to do with thinking, that's a lot of what I'm thinking about. It's also in regards to what happened in the past year since my last Venus return, and how am I going to integrate this into my experience. So obviously in a 1 year ago, I was completely in a different place. I just started seeing my twin flame, who is now my ex-boyfriend. And actually this video from Teal Swan yesterday was like a great resource of information for myself, which is why I shared it on my social media, because I actually will link it below, so if you guys didn't see it yet, you can watch it. It's not long, only about 10 minutes long, but the information she offers is very profound, and it might be very helpful to a lot of people, because in my personal experience, this has been the main cause of why my relationships, especially the past two, which were the most important, the most transformative relationships in my life, why they didn't survive. How she explains, if one of the party in a relationship starts feeling unsafe for whatever reason, then the behavior they adopt then triggers the other person starting to feel unsafe. And that's exactly what happened in in both cases, my past two relationships, which I said were like more significant for me. And I'm pretty certain that this is what a lot of people are contemplating at the moment, because of the transits that are happening in the sky. And like I said, Venus transiting for, in Aries for everyone, obviously it's affecting different house for different people depending on your chart layout. But it is still transiting through the sign of Aries, which again is encouraging people to think about their needs and values, what is essential to them, as individual. And also it is prompting a new direction. It's prompting some instinctual desire for choosing a different way of interacting, of relating to yourself, to others, and obviously defining what is important to you, what is no longer important to you, and what are you going to do about it. So that's to do with Venus. And like I said, there is a lot of Venus themes for this year, so this is going to be a continuous subject of contemplation and reevaluation for everyone. And as I put in the description of the video yesterday, the video from Teal that I shared, relationships will be the main topic of conversation for the next 2 years, and this is obviously mostly relationship to yourself as an individual, and also relationship to all the people that you are relating to, whether this is a romantic relationship, work relationship, or whatever relationship will come up. Usually the ones that are not working, that are dysfunctional and will need changing. So like I said, the video yesterday definitely brought a lot of memories for me in regards to my last relationships and how and why things didn't work out. So that was another thing that was, wanting to be released. And generally, Moon is all about our inner world and about releasing. And like I said, it's been going through my sun sign and my North Node and now my Mars, and it's going to conjunct my Chiron personally. So, check where it is for you, where is your house ruled by Taurus and Gemini. And that's probably where you feel more sensitive at the moment emotionally. And how this all ties up to living on a Pluto line is that since I've been here in Puerto Vallarta, which is on my Pluto line, actually Pluto is on my ascendant in my first house. It's like an accelerated path of facing what is still limiting me, what it's making me feel disempowered and empowered, and prompting me to make changes, to take these adjustments that allow me to feel more in power and in control of my life. And it's an accelerated process. Like, definitely since coming here, these themes are becoming more and more frequent, and every time something gets integrated, and new things come up. So it's like really an accelerated process. So it constantly keeps you on your toes. I'm not sure like how many people are aware where are the lines, and how many people are aware that they are living on Pluto line. Like I said, I'm not sure whether this is something that can be for life because it is a really intense experience, and it does force you to face the things that you fear the most. And and this is definitely present in my experience at the moment. Like I said, especially past 3 days, I have been feeling really sensitive and really down in regards to certain topics in my life. And definitely this is also encouraging me to reconnect with myself on a more deep level, which is again the theme of Sun transiting through the sign of Pisces this month until obviously the 20th of March, where we have the equinox, and the Sun will move into the sign of Aries. For this duration, while Sun is transiting through the sign of Pisces, and like I said, for everyone it is different. For some people, Sun is somewhere in the 12 houses of your chart. For me, it is second house. For people that perhaps it's on in the first house especially, but on the angles, so first house, fourth house, seventh house, and 10th house, this is even more strongly felt because it's encouraging new beginning. Because obviously these first, fourth, seven, and the 10th house, they are the cardinal houses. So that's a new beginning, a desire for some change. But generally, Pisces wants to close certain cycles. It wants to dissolve and let go of things that no longer serve us, for the new beginning to be able to start, for some, clear the space for the new things to come in. And that's exactly the process that I am tapping into, that I'm feeling into. And there are a lot of things being brought to the surface, and a lot of release. A lot of things are wanting to be let go of. So a new cycle of life can begin, new people can come into life, new opportunities. And I had a healing session in regard to my last relationships, my last relationship especially, where I wasn't able to release, I wasn't able to let go. I was still clinging on to the past, clinging on to the hope. And I had to go through numerous release sessions. And a friend of mine who actually gave me the healing session, it was a Reiki. She said that you have to let it go. You have to let go of this unhappiness, this sadness, because it's taking space where the joy cannot come in. Like she said, it is not necessarily just another person, but it's an opportunity to be happy. So by letting go of something that is causing you unhappiness or pain, you creating space for the opposite to come in as well. So that's why it's so hard to feel happier despite of external stimuli if something that is making us feel unhappy is still taking residence in our body. So so all these sun transiting through Pisces energies are really, really helpful and really supportive in when it comes to this theme of release and letting go and creating a space, because universe always fills the empty space. There is never a vacuum in the universe. So this is a great opportunity for everyone, because like I said, you all have Pisces somewhere, somewhere in your chart. So in its regard to different things. And for me, the main wound is obviously to do with resources, because I also have a sun in Taurus, North Node in Taurus, and my sun is in opposition with Pluto. So it calls for integration, and it's to do with limiting self-beliefs in regards of, am I able to take care of myself? Am I able to sustain myself, to survive, like all these primal existential needs? In order to be able to fulfill those, first and of all, we need to realize what they are, because some people don't even know what they need, what they want. So once again, Venus transiting through the sign of Aries, this is a fantastic opportunity for people to do this inner work, where can they release what they don't want or what doesn't serve them, but also to have the realization of what it is that they do want, what it is that is important to them, and also the relationship factor, what kind of people you want to be with, because the more you learn about yourself, the more you actually learn who you want to be with. You start attracting people not by default, but actually with intention, that you know what is right for you and what it is that you're seeking, rather than attract that which is the opposite, which then help you to realize what it is that you need, because that's how it works. Like we always figure it out one way or another. So actually it's much easier to figure it out through the meditation and introspective work, and then you don't have to have the experience through a partner that is incompatible. So this is with the Pluto, Pluto definitely intensifies and speeds up this process, and as we are fastly approaching Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius, things will be even more speed up and intensified, because Aquarius is a very fast sign. It's very progressive, very revolutionary, and currently, like I mentioned previously, Mercury is transiting through the sign of Aquarius, so our thinking process is very fast, and also the time is going very fast because Saturn is in a sign of Aquarius. And actually, once Saturn moves into sign of Pisces, the time will just dissolve. I don't know how it is for other people, but for me, in my experience, already currently, I have a problem to be aware what time is it, like what time is it, what day is it. Like sometimes I would not know which year is it. Like the time is kind of becoming like dissolved, it's becoming nebulous, and this will be even more and more felt once Saturn will move into sign of Pisces, because Pisces doesn't have boundaries, it doesn't have borders. It's just it's like living in different dimension, like everything will be simultaneous, like all these different dimensions, and things will stop being so linear. And also through going through this transition of human consciousness, where more and more people want to be individuated and live life in accordance with their values and who they truly are authentically, people no longer will want to have this structured 9-to-5 job and this structured existence where everything is so rigid and non-compromising. So with Saturn moving into sign of Pisces, things will be different. The definition of reality will be very different, very nebulous, very non-linear, but also it could be very confusing, especially for people who seek safety and security in this kind of existence. So there, like I keep saying, and this will become more and more prominent as as the planets will change signs in the upcoming years. Like I said, the big three, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, they will all change signs. And also Chiron, who represents the collective wound. And this will be all in action since from 2026 onwards. So we have these 3 years to get ready, to prepare, to go through this inner transformation of realization of what it is for us, and how we can adjust and change our life, change our perception of reality, to be then not shocked into action when it might be a little bit more uncomfortable, rather than coming from the free will. So this is the Pluto, and now I wanted to once again mention the new channel I came across, Stars and Destruct, because it's again very, very applicable to the theme I'm just divulging in here. And it's actually run by Juliana and Mark, who already have existing channel Boho Beautiful, and I've been following them for 3 years, doing their yoga like every single day, unless I travel or I'm not able to do it for whatever reason. Only recently they actually start up a new channel called Stars and Destruct, which is more like they pretty much talking about the situation in the world from a lot of different point of view, and applying spirituality and like a higher perception of reality onto what's happening in the world. And they are interviewing a lot of very interesting people who all offer their own perception of reality and what's going on and what might be happening in upcoming times. And it's very fascinating. It's a fascinating podcast to watch. Like I'm really addicted to it. I mean, there are not that many episodes out there. I think maybe 8, because it only just started recently, a couple of months ago. But the topics of conversation and the guests that are being invited to have a conversation with, it is definitely mind-opening, and for a lot of people, especially who are just at the early stages of their awakening, and who feel very confused and lost in regards to what the hell is going on in the world, and suddenly there is no clear definition. Like the things that we were relying on in the past and that offered now us the sense of security and stability, that is gone because of Saturn going through the sign of Aquarius and Pluto going through the sign of Capricorn. This has been eroded. It's literally it's starting to get dissolved. Like I said, once Saturn moves into the sign of Pisces, it will become even more felt how things are just, you cannot hold on to them anymore, because everything will become very undefined. It will become very nebulous and very there will be no boundaries of definition anymore. So going back to Mark and Juliana and this channel they created, they're actually coming out with very interesting topics that make people think and consider the reality from different perspective that perhaps they would have considered in the past, because now as the definitions are being dissolved, people are seeking a different perspectives, because suddenly what was reliable before is not anymore. Also with Uranus going through the sign of Taurus, the things that gave us the sense of grounding, because Taurus is like very earthy, very grounding sign. Obviously it rules the resources. These things again are no longer something that we can rely on, that is no longer like set in a stone like before. It was like you can trust it, you can rely on it. Now that doesn't exist anymore. So going back to this channel, they offer an information and like I said, perspective of different very highly evolved spiritually awakened people that help people who might feel confused or lost, or even people who might not feel that way, but they just offer a very interesting resource of information, and I very, very highly recommend it. This is I'm not saying there are no other channels, but this is what came to my consciousness, and it's been very helpful to me, because I myself, as everybody else or most people out there, I am going through some major transformation in my life and the way that I want to go from here onwards. And actually, there was a very, very fascinating quote that has been said by one of their guests. It was by Marcus Aubrey. That was, I believe, in episode number 2. And he said that people are moving further and further from their willingness to live because of their fear of dying. And that is so true. That is so true, because people are so scared, and it paralyzes them, and it kind of makes them apathetic because they just don't know what else to do. They're so afraid of the unknown, and the death is obviously the main thing that is, the unknown, because like, oh, how do you know what happens afterwards, and if there is anything? And especially people who are strongly conditioned by religions, like structured religions, they really struggle, for everybody something different, but a lot of people struggle with the fear of death, because especially I was born and raised Christian Catholic, and there is like, oh, well, if you don't behave certain way, if you are not certain way, if you don't if you're not devoted to God in a certain way that is being defined by by the church, then then you go to hell, or there will be some price to pay and stuff. And they describe this divine essence of God as something that is like ready to punish and take a revenge and stuff. So a lot of people are fearing death. They are paralyzed by their mortality, and especially in the times that we're living in right now, more and more people are like, it's becoming more present in their life because of the wars and this threat of nuclear war, and the things that we are observing and experiencing, and also all the natural disasters that have been happening more and more frequently. So people are more and more aware of their mortality, and a lot of people are afraid. And like for me personally, I'm very Plutonian, so I am definitely not scared of death. Bring it on. And especially here living on a Pluto line, it's kind of like, I don't know, it just makes you look at life and death in a very different perspective. And I rather be gone than go back to the slavery kind of life that I had before, because majority of people, whether they're aware of it or not, are actually slaves. They're slaves to the society, and working this 9 to 5 job 5 times a week, spending majority of your waking hours in a job that majority of people hate. They actually don't like it, and then they come home and they completely drained of their life force, and it's just this hamster wheel, this constant every day the same, and then the years passing, and then then one day you find yourself on your deathbed looking back and having regrets for all the things that you haven't done. And I just think that a lot of people will hopefully a lot of people will overcome this fear of death, and become brave and courageous to make changes in their life, so they can actually start living, because this kind of life is dying, like we already dead. if people, this is my perception of reality, and I don't wish to trigger anyone, but my experience is that this kind of life is worse than death. So if I was personally to have to go back to the jobs that I had in the past, and I'm not saying they were bad, but I just felt that I just wasted my time, and I wasn't creating anything of an essence, anything that actually reflected who I am and made any difference to anyone or to this world at all. And I rather not be here. And I rather not be here because I have a very strong faith in what comes after. And obviously I'm an evolutionary astrologer, so I am fully fully aware of incarnation and reincarnation and the soul's path, and I am very attuned to my own chart and to my own path of evolution. So I don't have any problem with ending this chapter and starting another one. So all that said, that is another Pluto theme, and another thing that perhaps it's more on my mind than has been in a past, because living here on a Pluto line, all this Plutonic theme are coming for inspection and introspection and reevaluation, and obviously death, the theme of death is one of them. And it's not something that brings fear to me, to my life, but I can appreciate and acknowledge and feel compassionate for people for whom it is a very scary thing. So going back to Mark and Juliana and this channel, it offers to me, from my point of view and from my experience of listening to half of these interviews at the moment, I haven't gone through all of them yet. It offers a potential for relief, or for peace in your heart. And actually, the very first interview that I have published on this podcast channel, they are on YouTube and on Spotify, I put the links below, was with a singer, with Milan Moritz, and she actually has been doing the work she is doing for over 6 years now, and I've not been aware of her. Maybe many of you are already, but I haven't. And she just came into my consciousness through this podcast, through this work that Juliana and Mark are offering to the world. And again, this has been an amazing tool to add to my toolbox of becoming more at peace and more resilient in these times that we're living in, because Milan actually channels music, a divine music from the source, a high frequential music that helps people to unplug from this reality and plug back into the source, into the place that we all came from and we all will return to at some point. And there is nothing to fear, because it's the real home. It's going back to who we really are and where we truly originate from. So yeah, like I mentioned before, I found a lot of value in this new podcast channel, and I would really recommend it to many people, especially if you are struggling and if you feel lost and if you are seeking answers, and sometimes you even seeking questions because you just don't even know what to ask. You just you could be feeling that way. So I will put the links below, and if you feel called to, definitely check it out. And I definitely would go to Milan Moritz channels as well and check out her music, because it really is very, very healing and very transformative. I really feel it has the power to actually correct and upgrade your DNA. I truly believe that there is a lot of energetic shifts going on at the moment, and more will be happening, especially once Pluto moves into sign of Aquarius. Everything will accelerate, our DNA structure will change, as it's already been happening with the little children. They're born with very different you can see if you have little kids that were born after 2010, 2008, when Pluto moved into sign of Capricorn. All these children born since then, they're very different. They already adjusted to the times that we are heading towards. So anyway, guys, I think I'll leave it at that, because it's already half an hour talking. I just wanted to share how the past few days have been for me, and perhaps many of you felt it also. We are heading towards the full moon in Virgo, not for another 10 days, but obviously that's the next thing that will be coming up. We just had the new moon in Pisces, which again, I hope gave a lot of people opportunities to put the intentions and decide what it is that they want to let go of and what it is that they would like to attract into their lives. And yeah, the story continues, because we are continuously in motion. Nothing is ever static, nothing is ever dead. There is no such a thing. It's just a change of form of energy, because energy is indestructible. So yeah, if you guys have any comments, do post them. If you have any questions, do post them. I'll be happy, even feedback. I'm always I'm always curious what people think. And yeah, if you find a value in my videos, I will really appreciate if you like and subscribe to my channel. Also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at moonlightsoul369, and I would really value more followers onto my channels, because this is what I now do for living, and this is the path that I would like to follow on. So yeah, if you would like to support my work, please get in touch. And yeah, I'm also happy to have a look at your chart if you feel drawn to having an evolutionary astrology reading. So have a great weekend, guys, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.